Hicks from Hicks New Media, and this is our monthly, regular, recurring session, Lunch with a Lawyer. Here on Perspectives and Focus, we talk to and about the people, industries, ideas, and technology that are making positive strides within society today. My co-host, not even guest, my co-host, Gus Passanante from the Basile Law Firm in New York, is here to talk a little something. And this will definitely be a session where you'll get some insight and some information. Let's go. I just woke up Siri behind me, so you know it's time to go. Let's get into it. Yeah, man. I just woke up Siri just now as I was talking. I don't know what she was talking about, but she thought she could contribute to the conversation today, and obviously she was incorrect. But Esquire, how are you, sir?
What's up, James? How you doing?
Today is another day, another Groundhog's Day. Every day is starting to look alike, but I'm glad to be here. Glad to see you again. Glad that we got to hang out a little bit a couple of weeks ago as well. But out of that event, out of that session, really more and more topics came up that I think this whole regular recurring lunch with a lawyer's season and session has. So let's before we get started, I think a high percentage of folks know who you are and what it is that you do, but for the small percentage of folks who may not, if you could give that quick elevator pitch of who you are, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Gus Passanante. I'm an attorney at the Basile Law Firm. We are the OTC lawyers on Twitter, and we handle a lot of litigation, corporate finance litigation specifically, and we've kind of gotten into some other spaces as well as our clients' demands went up. So have our services. So we're always working, and we're here to do the right thing.
Always working, always on the clock, always doing the good due diligence for sure, for
I
sure.
can't. I can't take credit for that one. That one's actually he actually his motto is never not working, and
Never
then
know. Okay, I might put that on a T-shirt. Don't be surprised if next time I see you, I'm rocking a T-shirt that has that slogan on it. I'll cut you a finder's fee as well. Um, Topic wise, let's get into it, man. Because again, I want to be cognizant of your time, and I want to keep these sessions bite sized so folks can, when they get the audio piece, we want to talk a little bit about FUD reports and things of that. Talk a little bit about what a FUD report is, what it means, and why it matters to, I'm gonna say, the general public first, right? Talk to us about why it matters to everyday, maybe consumers, investors, just
yeah,
society, and then talk and then start narrowing it down a little bit more as well.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll even take it a step before that. So why is FUD important, right?
Mm,
Um, I know a lot of our audience are retail investors on the OTC. You think about an OTC company and what it is. It's a startup. It's an emerging growth company. It's something that might not have a lot of revenues. More importantly, you're on the OTC markets. There's not going to be heavy volume, right? And that's really what's important here. If there's not heavy volume, that means that less amounts of money could influence the market in a greater way than a higher a stock that's traded with a higher volume. What that means, for example, I'll put that in perspective. If Apple, and I don't know what Apple trades a day, but it's a lot more than what OTC companies trade at, right? Let's say Apple trades $100 million of volume a day. An OTC company is not hitting that. Not only is an OTC company not hitting that, a retail investor isn't going to be able to hit that, right? And if you could hit the numbers that significantly bite into that volume, then you have the opportunity to influence the market. Why? How does FUD come into that? You think about it, we're on Twitter. Um, you have people that have a lot of influence and could um, can communicate through this avenue very expediently and to a lot of people at once. So, if there is misinformation spread, on Twitter or on Stock Twits or iHub, whatever platform it is, it doesn't take much to influence an OTC company's stock
Mm.
price.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the volume for an OTC company is $100,000. Now all of a sudden the floodgates are open. There's way more people that have the opportunity to influence that stock than there would be people to influence Apple or Google or one of those blue chips that have a much higher volume, right? So somebody with 10,000 followers tweeting something about something that was said in 8K or a Q or whatever kind of filing, um, it wouldn't have the same effect on Google as it would for a company traded on the OTC or
Gotcha.
Apple. So that's why FUD's important, that's how FUD it kind of comes into play with some of our clients and how they need protection from it. Unfortunately, at this point, because the more I get involved, the more you get involved. We just you cross paths with these people, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. I mean, I wish I had that kind of time during the day. But it's
No one has that kind of time, brother. Let me backtrack just real quick because I'm sitting here thinking, and again, I don't want to assume anything. So from my field, from the technology field, FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
yep,
I want to make sure again for folks who may not know, and I would hate to ever assume that that's again kind of what we're talking about: the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt, and the folks that are out there pushing. I don't even want to say the word pumping, but just pushing and speaking incorrect news ahead of time, before time, just trying to change the conversation, trying to scare, trying to fear, trying to bring about things that folks don't know, the uncertainty, and then talking negative about an organization or about a group of leaders, the doubt piece, right? So I just wanted to give that piece as well, that definition of FUD.
absolutely, yeah. Thanks for that. That's exactly it, James. Um, and back to you, you kind of just reminded me of something. I think we actually did kind of discuss these kind of market influences a while back. It just hit me now. I don't know. We haven't spoke about this yet, but we did talk about these kind of market influences a while back when we were talking about market manipulation and toxic lending in the space of
Yes,
toxic,
yes.
right? So it's kind of similar. So somebody might say, like, what kind of incentive would a person have to, talk down on a CEO or say that this company doesn't have the potential to do what it's saying it's planning on doing or whatever they might say, right? Why would how would somebody benefit from that? Like I just said before, it doesn't take much money to influence this market. So if you can influence 10 people to sell that all have a $10,000 position, all of a sudden you might be achieving 100% of the volume or,
Wow.
average volume for a week, right? And let's say I'm a fudster. I could take out a short position 3 days before I start spreading all this stuff with 28 accounts or 30, however many accounts I have. Start getting out to as many people as I can. And some of these penny stocks, if they're trading at 10 cents, you're going a
Oh,
cent is moving your position 10%.
make it
1 cent.
plain, man. Make it plain right there. Yeah, there you go.
And it's like, okay, here, I'm going to short you right now. I'm going to say all this stuff. I'm going to bring it down, cover my position with a stock that's 2 cents shorter, which is 20. I'm going to make a 20% return. Let's, using that example of a 10-cent share price, I'm going to make a 20% return just because I sent a couple tweets out. It's that easy and it's that simple to make money. So, and I think that's important to cover because I think a lot of people don't even understand the kind of impact that this kind of influence could have on a share price. Um, and although I kind of, as a lawyer, would always like to be risk averse and advise my clients to be risk averse, there's a time and place where this stuff is it needs to you need to put a stop to it because it'll never end. This is the OTC has been known for this kind of manipulation for long before Twitter ever came out. Of
Yeah,
course,
true.
I mean,
Right, right.
it's always been around. It's just a whole new avenue for these people to go and take advantage of companies and other shareholders because that's really what they're doing. They're just hurting other shareholders, right? They're hurting all of these other
Yeah.
shareholders by decreasing their positions to benefit themselves. And
Let
yeah,
me ask you because you just sparked something in my head, right? That just makes your side of the fence, the litigation side, just nonstop. right? Never ending. It's never a dull day in the law firm. You walk into the office and there's always something going on. Can we talk about, and I know if we can, definitely not in specifics, but consequences to folks that are hiding behind a keyboard and who are spreading this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and spreading these types of ill-advised conversations and trying to manipulate these already vulnerable markets. Where does it start where someone like you puts the suit on, gets the briefcase, and goes in front of a judge and say, look, we're going to target X, Y, and Z person or group because they're harming the reputation of a particular company? How do you get involved, and kind of some of those, again, high level steps? I definitely don't want to get into anything that you can't talk about, but just when does the Basile Law Firm get involved?
Yeah. James, you make it so easy for me. You always ask, like,
So I'm
you just
almost like I've
let
done
me
this,
just
done some of this before, right? So tell
but
somebody.
so that's actually pretty much exactly where a FUD report might come in, right? And I had this discussion with another person on Twitter. His name's Panther. Shout out to Panther. I was on
Yeah,
his Facebook
shouts out to Panther. Good dude. Good dude.
weeks ago, and I kind of spoke about this a little bit, and I'm gonna try and cover some of that stuff, maybe more. But so something I think that a lot of the viewers of that session took away that was pretty important, at least in terms of trying to identify what can be actionable. And then I'll get into like the whole process, but I want to kind of talk about what's actionable, right? Because that's really, I mean, that's the initial, that's the intake process. That's our analysis. What's actionable? What can we take action
Yeah.
for? What can we plausibly allege a violation of? And then, there's obviously other logistical concerns that come into play when we're making that upfront analysis to advise our client on their next steps, which we'll get into. But of course, the first thing is actually finding something actionable. And I think a really, really good, easy, simple, straightforward term to keep in your mind when you're trying to identify FUD is this term, provably false. All right. If something is provably false, that's pretty much actionable. There's other elements, of course, and there's, deeper interpretations and other things that we need to allege, but that's generally what we need, to be actionable. If somebody is, for example, one of my clients, there was a media outlet that tweeted about an 8K. The 8K said something. The tweet said exactly opposite of what the 8K that they attached to the tweet said, right?
Why do it, folks? Why do it?
Right. The judge signed the petition in, I think, 3 weeks. It was literally 21 days. That was just a pre-action disclosure petition. It wasn't an actual action against the user, but the judge signed the petition in 3 days. It's very, very simple sometimes to identify what's provably false. Saying you're an idiot isn't provably false, although I wish it was.
It does hold up in the courts, but
right? You need to be able to
public
prove
opinion maybe, but not in the courts. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So you need to be able to prove that a statement is false. So, for example, when somebody says that a CEO did X, and I know that I could prove that the CEO did not do X, it's done. And as long as the CEO, my client has a trigger finger, like, it's done. Like, we're gonna go. So it's that's something to really keep in mind, of at least to identify what's actionable, what what could be considered FUD, what's something we can actually do something over. So that's generally, I guess, the first step, right? So a client will come to us and say, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on. We'll refer them to OTC CSI, who will produce a FUD report. The FUD report is just a compilation of all of these tweets and market data, pretty much tweets and market data, of course, date and volume and all the other stuff, but it's tweets and market data, right? So if we see a tweet that's provably false and had an impact on their share price, that's pretty much a no-brainer. Some of the other logistical concerns that are obviously very real is, what are you going to recover from some guy sitting in his mother's basement that has no assets to his name? Probably Probably nothing, and that's realistic. And of course, that's what we need to advise our clients. Realistically, probably nothing here, right? You can't recover real money, but what you can do is make sure that they don't do it again, because we are gonna obviously commence an action once we get their data from Twitter, once after we file that petition, and
Yeah.
then that action is going to, I mean, we could get a judgment. It's the, well, again, the problem is collecting. It's not necessarily getting the judgment. We're pretty confident we'd get a judgment. We wouldn't ever file a petition. Petition probably wouldn't actually even get granted if there was no actionable claim, because that's part of the analysis for this pre-action disclosure petition
Yeah.
is a meritorious claim. So we're showing that we have a meritorious claim in the pre-action disclosure. So it's like we're there.
It's a win-win right there for the
Petitions
BLF, ladies and gentlemen.
for,
The Basile Law Firm already has a.
so
Okay.
so it's there, right? So um after we advise on, the potential outcomes, they generally want to, take whatever action it would be to stop the FUD. It's not even about necessarily recovering the damage, even though there is damage, but it's getting rid of the mess and the
Yeah.
noise. It's just because of the effect that it does have. It
The
truly
long-term
does,
effect. Yeah.
right? So that's generally our clients' goals, and that's the goals. That's how we advise them.
Let me ask this too. It's very, very interesting, right? And again, these are probably even questions, hopefully, that the audience has as well. I want to ask about statute of limitations. Is there such a thing as statute of limitations when it comes to going after this type of individual in these types of scenarios? And along with that, you're mentioning Twitter a lot. Is that kind of in today's world, in today's society, in today's method of communication, is that the primary means where a lot of this information is being spread? Right? I mean, not everyone gets to journal anymore, right? No one reads the paper. No one listens to the news as much as we did back in the day. It's now that instant gratification of social media. Boom, I can send out 200 characters to the globe in 5 seconds. And the fact, I think these folks don't realize that data doesn't go away. Or you can delete a tweet, but it's not gone. Right. I work in the technology field. I can find anything out. I know where you live. I can find out where you might listen. Be careful what you post out there, folks. So, statute of limitations, is there one? And then, are you seeing that Twitter is kind of the primary location for where you're getting this information?
Okay, so the first question, statute of limitations. Just to clarify, so statute of limitations is the amount of time after a wrongdoing occurs that a party has to commence an action. So, and I know you referred to kind of data disappearing or getting, tossed away.
Yes.
The statute of limitations wouldn't necessarily affect the data that would be held by, let's say, Twitter or iHub or one of these platforms. So statute of limitations, yes, there is one. I think it's 3 years in New York for defamation, for libel. But I've never really had to worry about it because it's usually like weeks afterwards, and it's so I'm never really doing a statute of limitations check. As for the data, Twitter has obviously internal policies to retain data for certain periods of time. We've never had an issue with it. I mean, I'm getting your IP address in the disclosure. I'm getting your name, your IP address, your email. Like I'll literally know where you sent the tweet from. And Twitter has that information before. So you're absolutely right. Like the data is not gone, and Twitter is also, I would imagine, because of a lot of like compliance that they're gonna be under, obviously being the conglomerate that they are, that they're not getting rid of some of that data, because this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit. But when their parties can anticipate litigation, they're under a duty to like preserve evidence, right? So a lot of bigger corporations take those steps all the time because the harm that could be caused by not potentially preserving that data versus that internal analysis, hey, are we anticipating litigation or not, it's not worth taking that risk, right? So these compliance departments make sure that these companies are not taking any risk. So the data is, I've never been worried about it. About data not being there, also because we do take action like pretty quickly. It's not like we're waiting months, or we're not even waiting months, right? It's we see it and we go, and so haven't ran into any issues there, and I don't anticipate any issues coming up on that side. What was the second question again? I'm sorry.
No, it was about was Twitter kind of the primary location as
Oh,
well, right? That you're getting it now,
yeah.
or there's less someone getting on top of the mountaintop and screaming. That sounding board really is social media these days, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm I'm only on Twitter. We do have some clerks in our office that monitor, subreddits and stock twits and
Wow.
iHub.
Okay.
I don't monitor it personally, but the FUD reports does have data. Oh, let me see. I know they have data from at least stock twits. Yeah, so we have stock twits accounts. So on the chart, we could actually choose the account that the report pulls data from. And the account could be a Twitter account, it could be a StockTwits account. And I believe those are the only two. Let me check. Oh no, we have Reddit and iHub too. I didn't even know that. But yeah,
There's no
um,
hiding, folks.
there's there's just less of it. So I
Yeah,
like in
yeah,
the drop down. I only see a few accounts for iHub and Reddit. Mostly StockTwit. Actually, a lot of StockTwits. There's a lot of stock twits, and of course, I see it firsthand on Twitter, so that's why I keep referencing Twitter. It might
yeah,
not be
yeah.
on Twitter; it's just what I'm most familiar with.
Yeah, and I'm glad. So for the audience, you had mentioned that we're kind of getting into the weeds, kind of getting into that 201, 301 level, and I think that matters because again, not wanting to have people assume that Passanante is not out there doing the good due diligence. That is not out there finding all of this stuff. He's got these tools, resources to dig very deep into. If you're pushing something out negative about any particular organization, uh, they're gonna find you. And by having that IP address, literally, that can triangulate right to 123 Main Street in the heart of, you know, California, wherever you are. So be cognizant of that, folks. Think before you send out anything that is not right, anything that is negatively can negatively affect, even positively affect, right? Just if you if you don't have any business sending out
Yeah.
messages that move markets and you aren't responsible for that market, if you're just a retail, commercial, private investor, it's best to keep that stuff just in your backyard where you're talking about it over a beer or something, as opposed to using these social platforms where you have a bigger depth and breadth than you really think. Right, these algorithms are written such that when you send out those 144, 200 characters, it is designed to go out and blossom out and reach more people than the 20 that may be following you. So, okay, soapbox, I'm done. Oh, sorry. I'm drinking some pretty decent coffee today, man. So I'm on one right now, man. Um, so the flood reports, is that something you get on a regular basis? Something that gets pushed to you, or you have to, or gets pulled to you, or something you have to push out and grab? Is it something
Yeah,
that you're like for proactively looking for patterns, or it depends on if one of your clients says we've got an issue and we need to pull this report, kind of thing?
yeah. So the client will order the report,
Okay.
and it's shared with us, and we'll focus mostly on the accounts that the client advises us to. Although we do, and I'm going to reiterate this again, and I have before, but it actually is in court when other users tag OTC CSI, those accounts go into this report. So
Wow.
they're actually doing work for the company basically by identifying some of these the FUD posters because those accounts are going straight into my data. Um, and then the analysis occurs like on our end, right? So we'll have someone, myself or Mark, someone in my office will take a look at it. Um, Generally, we're going to look at the larger dips in the share price,
Hmm.
right? Because we can allege that we make that allegation for the harm that they cause the company. Once we see that dip, we on the chart will be there's plots, and each plot is a tweet or a post on
Gotcha.
stock
Okay.
or Reddit or iHub, right? So I'm going to look at all the plots, and I could separate it by users. I can have multiple users if I think that they're working in coordination with each other, which has happened before. And I could see all the plots. Oh, you guys all tweeted on the same day saying the same thing, and made the stock price go down to this price, right? I see it. It's
Wow.
like, it's raw. It's raw, it's literally on a chart. It can't get any easier. Once we see that, we'll analyze. We'll look at the tweets. We'll look at the plots on the chart that are on that downward line, right? Okay, open up that tweet. What does that tweet say? Nothing actionable. Is it calling somebody stupid? Is it calling somebody an idiot? Probably not actionable. Is it saying that somebody is lying in a statement? Okay, we're not lying in no one's lying in a disclosure. It's like the
Right.
crazy
This is not going
accusation.
to happen. That's just
You
not
know,
going to happen.
like, yeah, yeah, we're gonna risk. Somebody's gonna risk, going to jail because of, yeah, okay. It's just insane, right? So things like that, those are like the best ones. It's like a slam dunk. Okay, you think we lied in a disclosure? Here's everything to
Hmm.
prove that everything in the disclosure is true. So it's provably false. I saw the stock price go down by 3 cents the day you and 6 other accounts tweeted this. We're going to file the petition with Twitter. Twitter's going to give us all their IP addresses. Sometimes they think they're slick by not putting their name in it, but we could easily commence an action and identify a John Doe defendant and put it on the docket, and we'll get the name when we get it because we have their IP address. That's something you can't avoid. So it's it's really, and like I said, the times that we've done this and have gotten through to people, it's never like, it always stops immediately. Most of the
Hmm.
time, it actually stops just from like somebody saying, like, tagging us in it. But sometimes we have to take that extra step, which is
Yeah.
fine. I don't
Yeah.
mind going to court and doing that. Like, all right, it's my job. It's literally what I
You
do.
don't mind. You don't mind going in court and putting
Yeah,
somebody through it if you have to.
yeah.
Let me ask this because this is also one other thing that I want, because companies on the OTC probably don't have the resources in house to
Mm.
monitor and stay on top of some of this, right? They're already nose to the grind, trying to get the company moving, trying to build the product, build a service, do whatever. And if there's someone on the fringes talking whatever, negative, positive, or just talking about the company out of turn, some of these things may go past, and because some of the OTC companies don't have those designated identified folks internal, do you proactively monitor those for your clients, or are you again waiting more reactively for XYZ company to call and say, Gus, I need you to put the cape on and swing in action? Or are you say you're already looking at Twitter on a regular basis. Are you looking for patterns for companies that are within your portfolio for these smaller companies? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes sense. It really, it depends on what the client wants. Sometimes the client comes with us with the account and with the tweet, with the
Okay.
tweet that
I
they
got
want
you.
action.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we might not have to dig. Sometimes they're like, "Hey, I know this account's pretty bad. Can you look into this one?" Or sometimes it might just be a blanket, like, "Hey, monitor this for me and send us an invoice next month," right? And every month whenever things come out. And so, and we'll have an engagement, a relationship like that if that's what they ask. Because you're right, that's absolutely true. It's unlikely that an OTC company is going to have the resources to dedicate
Yeah.
to a person that just solely monitors social media. And it's interesting to think about where this might be in the future. So now that we're on this topic of like kind of like things changing and being different, Mark has this idea that he thinks that there should be a section in public disclose in in disclosures, in like 10Qs and Ks
Hmm.
that kind of reflects potential influences from social media. And it's a pretty interesting
Yeah.
subject. I mean, I'm not an Exchange Act attorney, so I'm not like completely, I'm not an expert on like, disclosure requirements and materiality and things like that. But it is an interesting concept because imagine a company would just post this FUD report and imagine that, people could see like, oh, wait a second, like those 6 tweets really did just bring the stock price down 4 cents, and they really did lie, right? Like, because usually you could prove the falsity like in the tweet itself with a filing.
Mm-hmm.
They're like saying things that are false that are like, I get like, it's literally public record. I don't even need to like get evidence to prove it. It's like, I can't even believe you would say something. Like, I don't even need anything. Like, how are you even?
You wrote it yourself there, guy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so crazy. So it's it's a really interesting concept, and honestly, it might be like more beneficial than what we do now, than having to like you know, swing a hammer every time somebody
Yeah,
does something
yeah,
wrong, like, and take action. And then, you have the costs associated with like commencing the action. Lawyers are expensive. It's not feasible to go pay an attorney to go take care of something every time somebody like gets out of hand because they want to make, 10 grand on something because they want to, whatever they want to spend their money on because they have nothing better to do, could tweet, 46 times at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday.
crazy.
It's, if
Sound
that's
like
what,
you're speaking out of experience there. Or you've seen some patterns like that happen before. But we won't get into specifics. But you were specific pretty much at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. This person was on one themselves. Okay, okay.
listen,
Well,
I'm not fucking bad. I'm actually jealous. I wish I had that kind of time.
I'm gonna say a day in the life, right, man? Man, if okay, if we had that type of time in our day, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Golly, golly. Um, this is all right. This is good because again, I think this opens eyes to folks that again maybe passionate about an organization from a bear perspective or from a bull perspective, just from any perspective.
Yeah.
Just be passionate about technology, maybe passionate about a product or a service, and maybe start off rightfully wanting to share some news and share some information. And oh, I got a hunch. I think this may be where they're going, or I thought I heard the CFO say this, uh, and find out they said that, and oh, that's wrong. I wish they didn't. So then you start,
Yeah.
it starts out somewhat innocent.
It
I,
starts giving people like healthy skepticism, which is what they should have to begin with. And I
yeah,
think kind of been lost, the older that we get. Like
yeah.
I grew up and like, my mom said like, don't believe strangers on the internet. It seems like that
There you
everyone
go.
forgot about that one, like,
Golden
now
rules right there, man.
it's like, I don't know. I feel like, we kind of strayed away from that. I'm sure we'll kind of hit a balance. But back to that, the reporting thing of
Yeah,
having like report of like the social media impact of the share price. That's also like I don't want to kind of sound like I'm talking on one side, and actually a listener, when I was talking on Panthers space a couple weeks ago, brought this up. And I don't want to speak like I'm saying the only time a stock's influence is when somebody's talking bad about it to bring it down. It's absolutely could be influenced the other way as well, and that would also be a part of the disclosure. It's kind of just a disclosure, like you just said, like kind of giving people that like just I don't know what the word is, reality, or I guess just perspective. That perspective of like, hey, maybe you don't realize this as a retail investor, how little it actually takes to change the stock price, whether it's up or down. It's just something that retail investors should be thinking about, and that's I don't want that to get lost and kind of make it seem like I'm trying to say like, it's only bad people out there saying things badly about companies and bring it down because, I'm talking, in general, and I actually do believe that that would be a beneficial section of a 10K or a Q.
got you. And I'm gonna use
And
that
that's
as
all. It's also Mark's idea too. I don't want to. He's
well.
gonna.
He can't have them all. Listen, all right. I was going to grab because you
Yeah,
said the word perspective, and remember that's the name of the show here: perspectives and
right.
focus. So
Exactly.
uh, I'm gonna
Come.
take 2% off the top for that one right there. I'm trying to keep people in focus. So um, the show's going off the rails now, man. I don't know what else to do, man. uh, listen,
It's
we do this once a month, right? We gather questions, we grab from discussions that Gus and I have, and we also are active in the community, active on social media and things of that as well. So if you've got something that you'd like us to talk about next month, hit me up in the DM. Don't bother Gus; he's probably in court. He's probably busy doing the good work. So hit me up and don't hit him. But in closing, let me ask you this: what are kind of a couple of takeaways that you want everyone to kind of understand about not the validity, but the sensitive nature of putting out information online where it can relate to an organization? So cautions, I would say, that you can give to investors that are, again, very, very adamant, very passionate about a particular company? Just kind of be aware of before they do those type of things, before someone like you swoops into action.
Yeah, I think a couple. I can think of kind of two things right off the top of my head. Is one is just being skeptical in general. I think it's kind of just like we were talking about before. Is just like social media has completely gone off the rails. Like some of the things that I see that people say and represent on there is forget about not being accurate, because it's incredible the amount of inaccurate information I see, not even with respect to a certain company, just like the way that the way that somebody puts together a proposition and then puts it out, and it's like they're kind of on track but they're not, and it's like that could also influence something. And and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be an expert in everything, but it's almost just like taking a step back, like, hey, maybe there's more to this, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, maybe this person's misstating it. And it's like maybe like turn the page, and like go and dig a little deeper. um, and the second thing I want people to take away from this is not everything's actionable, because somebody calls you a name that's not provably false. um,
Mm.
because somebody talks badly and says, I don't think this is a good idea, or offers their opinion. Opinions aren't provably false. So I think provably false is like a really important term, and I think it's easily it's easy to grasp for a lot of people. And like, hey, I could prove this false, or the company could prove that this is false, this statement or this tweet is false, and this might be actionable. So I think it's important to kind of narrow um, focus into what is FUD and what is just people making noise and
Mm.
talking, right? What is actionable and what is noise, and what is this guy who's just bored on a Tuesday at 2:30 afternoon?
Well, so who has that onus? Is it the company or is it you, from a litigation perspective? Who has that onus to say this is this versus that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the last call is always going to be the client. We're going to
Mm.
advise the client. The client's going to trust us. And that's our job every day, is to make
Yeah.
sure that we build trust between us and our clients. So when we advise them, they take our advice, right? Because there's nothing worse than a client who doesn't listen to you. And that's like one thing I could say pretty proudly. I think that we have like a really good relationship with all of our clients, and they're going to
Awesome.
take what we say, you know, for what it is, because we're not a firm that is going to promise the world and deliver nothing. And we're always very upfront and honest. And I think that really shines through. And that's, why we are where we are today. And so, of course, the onus is on us. But remember that, I don't know, I could open up this FUD report now. I mean, I can't even count the number of accounts. It's a lot of data to go through.
Mm.
So the reason why I kind of said, like, when you're identifying users or tweets that could be potentially actionable, if you stick to the ones that you really think about and like, hey, can I prove this false? The data that I'm looking through, or one of my law clerks might be looking through, is going to be significantly less. And like, the easier you make things like that for us, the easier our jobs will be and the better we could perform. And the more we could deliver for our clients, which in the end is really, our clients are the shareholders. Our client, of course, it's the company, but you guys own the company. The
Yeah.
shareholders own the company. So everything I'm doing everything for them, right? So if they can make our lives a little easier, so we can make our lives better. I mean, our job, or do our jobs better. It's going to benefit them in the end, right? So, for example, the other day I asked Mark for a better espresso machine. I said, listen, Mark, if you get this espresso machine, it's going to make my life a little easier and make me do better and make you more money. So he's like, yeah, of course, order
Done. Get by two.
it.
By two. I love it.
Yeah.
Win-win for everyone, right? Okay. Let me ask you, which one you get? Which one you get? Well, I don't want to. I don't want to put him on the out there. But I got the Jura E8.
So, oh,
Uh,
send me the link to that, because he hasn't actually, we haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but we
okay,
definitely
Jura E8 is dope. Let me tell you,
we're
it's
looking.
high
Yeah,
end. Yes, sir. Yes.
that's what I'm pushing for.
Listen,
That's
money's
what
no object. Money's no object. That's okay. Just raise your hourly rates or something. Do whatever you got to do. But the Jura E8 is really the real deal. Holyfield. Yes, sir. All right,
Yeah,
we're see there we go again. See squirrel, right? I start especially talking about coffee, man. That's me. That's where we can get down. Okay, okay. Coffee and scotch. That's what I get down with. So,
that's it. That's it.
yes, you're a good man. I appreciate you, man. I really do. This is a great series. I think this is really helping folks on all levels. I think selfishly, I think it may be even helping you, folks from the litigation space, from the legal space, just being able to have a forum to share knowledge and share information, just at a very low stress scenario and atmosphere and environment, right? As opposed to, again, being in front of the judge, being in court. But now you can actually talk about the concepts. You can talk about how it matters, how it's relevant to people, and like you said, the perspective that folks need to have. So I think that's really what we're trying to do here. My role here is just to turn these lights on, press record, and provide the forum to have that conversation. Again, folks, every month we come on and do this. What is it? Third Thursday, something like
Every
that.
Thursday, yeah.
I don't know. It's on the calendar, and whenever Gus says he wants to come talk, let's do it, man. So, anything you want to say in closing, brother?
No, man, that's it. It's always a blast. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. We'll do it again next month, and until then, folks, be good and take care of yourself, and we will talk to you then.